I'm here with Orla Tinsley, a campaigner and a journalist for cystic fibrosis. And to be honest, we just kind of want to ask, how are you finding our little festival? It's your first time here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my first time. I'm loving it so much. It's incredible. It's really, really interesting just to be in the atmosphere and just to hear people talking about writing and books and language, and it's so exciting.
John, if you could talk first about the novel Capital and the vision you have of what happened in London in the years, let's call them the years of growth or the years of greed, or however you want to describe them, but there were certainly years when a great deal changed in the fabric of London.
Growth and greed are, two of the main G words, I think, to use about London. Because I didn't grow up in London. I grew up mainly in Hong Kong, and my first encounters with London were passing through. And in the 70s, it used to seem very grey and provincial and drab as a city, I thought. And the buildings were grey, the people was grey, the sky was grey, the weather was grey, the food was grey. And now I'm an adopted Londoner. I've lived there for 25 years, and those things are no longer true. There's been this convulsive change, and from being a kind of sleepy and in many respects sort of marginalised place globally, London has become a kind of world city again, which it wasn't always. These things come and go, but a lot of the things that kind of press on the front pages of the newspapers press on London, inequality, finance, the kind of abstract sense of a threat from terrorists or whatever. Those things are all very, very kind of apparent day in, day out in London. You see inequality, you see extraordinary luck, you see grotesquely rich people, you see people begging. It's all right, and you see people desperate to get into the country, and you get a thing routinely. I quite often play a game like how many people I can interact with in a given day before I speak to the first Brit, and quite often I can go out, have a coffee, buy a paper, do the shopping, do a couple of chores, and get back home, and I haven't yet. And that's quite strange. So the press of the world on the city is very, very apparent, and that was a sort of starting point. I wanted to write about that kind of the sense of in the way that the world presses on the city, and the city presses on this one particular street.
Oh my Clement, you're the man, you were always in the van, with an open door to all man and costume. They watched Stumpy at your wake, there was bread and curly cake, and a big tea on your table late and soon. On the road to Abbey Fair, sure I met a man with pay, come here to see and pass your idle time. On meeting made by call, saying the young will wed the young, and the old man had the money for the child.
So, Simon, what are your impressions of the Listowel Writers' Week?
It seems great. It's a very full-on programme. You've got a lot going on here over, 3 or 4 days. And the town looks fantastic. I mean, like all festivals, I'm not spending enough time here, but you've got to admire any town with a racecourse.
What are the odds? You mentioned festivals there. How important are festivals to you as an author and to the reader?
I think they're increasingly important. I mean, we keep hearing about the death of the book. I think that's premature, but I think increasingly the live event is something that people really value. I think for a poet it's always been important. The idea of standing up and representing yourself in front of an audience was part of the ancient task of being a poet. Literature as we think of it is a relatively recent thing, so it's good. I like the accountability, I like that slightly confrontational feel, and I like putting a face and a voice to authors as well. And I mean almost every town seems to have a literature festival of some kind, whether it's fiction, poetry or whatever, so there's obviously a demand there.
There must be a difference in audiences, let's say a Yorkshire audience and a London audience, an Irish audience and an American audience.
There probably is, but I don't think I don't think it does well to spend too much time thinking about that. You know, you don't spend time thinking about that when you're writing your poems, and that's all you've got really. So you just need to get up there and do your thing. And yeah, some poems play differently in different parts of the world. Some festivals, even though they're in the same part of the world, might be very different. You know, it might be a university crowd, might be a sort of lunching ladies crowd, it might be you know, just sort of local people, or you just can't tell. And I suppose that's another good thing about festivals, the the spontaneity. Just what you can't anticipate coming at you, and it makes every reading slightly different. And if it wasn't, it would just feel like a treadmill, I think.
Simon, thank you so much. You have done a fantastic job here today. You amused us, you entertained us, and you even enlightened us. So thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
And it's your first time to our little festival here, is it?
To this one, yes, I've heard of it. I've heard of it before, and I'm really pleased to be here, yeah.
And what do you think differentiates our festival to other literary festivals?
It's very warm and friendly. I went this morning to hear all the people who had won prizes were in the anthology, and that really interested me because there was such a range of work, from really young children to people who were perhaps publishing a first story or a first poem, to people who are very, very sophisticated writers with experience, and it was just great. And there was comedy, and people were enjoying it, and that was lovely. There was a sense of the breadth and the reach of the festival.